I think we're going to sit down. But can you keep toasting and stuff as well?
You alright? Our table has got a sweepstake on the length of this. I think if we had a sweepstake on the length of the previous one, no one would have won. It gets worse. Toby Elliott Young. To some, he is Tone, others, TY, the Genius, Chief Beef, Jange, the Ginger Prince, the Cuckoo, Boris Becker, Carol Decker, Gonch, Brother, Lover, Too Friendly with Your Mother, Photographer, Musician, Thief. Toby means something different to all of us, but to Sarah, he's just become her husband, and to Sarah's family, a brother-in-law, son-in-law and uncle. It's been a wonderful day so far, and I wanted to try and tell the story of how we got here, and maybe give Sarah's family an extra glimpse on what they're getting into. I meant to tell like whimsical tales of the groom, things the wife might not know, be a bit risque, but we all know Toby doesn't really have risque on his dial. He starts at mildly offensive, moves through toe curling and disgraceful, and often ends with us having to leave. For a man who lives by the motto, any publicity is good publicity, there's no shortage of stories, but there's no really appropriate ones. Here's a list of the things I definitely can't talk about today. The sauna accident with the Portuguese boy, the crack deal that went terribly wrong, Toby had to buy his car back off a teenager. His South African arrest is probably a great story, but Toby still claims amnesia. 2 hit and runs, an ongoing pharmaceutical scam, and a large collection of small antiques he's stolen from clients' houses. It leaves me just with the time he defecated himself in a house he was photographing, but you've probably all heard that one. So let's tell the nice story, and it's a story that could have started a lot earlier. Sarah actually went to school and lived just a mile away from Toby, in South London, the other side of Blackheath. And even back then, Toby wasn't allowed within 500 metres of a girls' school. So it took a festival in the Isle of Wight 20 years later for them to actually meet. Sarah had been deserted at a festival by Zach and Duncan, who were worse for wear. She sat on the grass when a man fell on her. That man here today was Jamie. Ever the predator, he purred, "Why are you all alone?" And Sarah said, "Because my friends are wasted and have left me." To which Jamie replied, "You think they're wasted? Wait till you see my friend." And on stumbled Toby, Sarah remembers bleached hair and Air Max. Toby could barely speak, his eyes were rolling round in his head, and he was having trouble walking. He'd been at the festival for 2 hours. And he can't remember his first impression of Sarah. So the magic happened, they got it together, they played it slow, they bonded, they got cosy in Sarah's family home in Greenwich, eventually moved out and bought their own place together. Toby, as many of you may know, was brought up in a lovely house in Blackheath. And he'd always been interested in adding Sarah's mother's house to the portfolio. So there was really only one option. He'd given it some thought, and whilst he hadn't sought counsel from family or friends, he had bought a plastic ring. Those of you that know Toby well will know how much better he works when there's an audience. So he told Dave from upstairs that he was going to propose the next day, and did he want to come and watch? So So with Dave and Barrett round, plus Jenny and Miguel, Toby got down on one knee, and Sarah said yes, and here we are today. That's true, that is true. People get married for many reasons, mostly intangible, but it always boils down to love and what it is about each other. I wanted to ask them what it was about each other that they loved about, what Toby loved about Sarah, what Sarah loved about him. I took time to speak to them both. When pressed, Sarah said she finds Toby's relentless inappropriateness, is where she is, quite testing, but she loves him because there's never a dull moment. He's mostly fun and uplifting, or dreadfully pessimistic. He cooks for her when she's down and does sweet romantic gestures, like the day he bought her a Chinese fortune cap to cheer her up, which sits on the sideboard and reminds her of him. Naturally, Toby was less generous. Talking, nagging, usual shit was how he described Sarah's shortcomings. And these are Toby's words when he says he loves Sarah because she reminds him of a 12-year-old boy. I've known Toby for a long time. I've known Toby for a long time, and I can see how wrapped he is in Sarah and how good they are together. He plays at being the boorish lout, but in fact, just last week at a party, he reduced his fragile girl to tears by telling her, "The trouble with you, love, the reason you're never going to succeed in life is you've got no personality." But don't forget, people, this is the man who surprised everyone when he announced he was to train as a Samaritan on the Saturday help desk for his Friday night victims. He may regularly drink more than the recommended weekly allowance of alcohol in one night, and do this several nights a week. He stays out till 5 am on a Wednesday like he's 15, and the party may never stop. But beneath Toby's thick ginger shell is a small and frightened child who needs Sarah's love and guidance to get him through life. Knowing Toby as well as I do, I know how great Sarah is for him. I know how much he loves her. And if she only gives him back half of that, then they've got a good thing going on. Well, I know I speak for everyone here today. I want to say how delighted we all are that you're together. A great couple, our two dear friends, now husband and wife. So if I could ask you to be upstanding, I would like to propose a toast to Toby and Sarah.
Cheers. Toby and Sarah. Cheers. 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 Cheers.